welcome back. So today I am joined with a therapeutic coach and the host of Imperfect Mum Podcast, Natasha. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm a bit rushed,
Yeah.
It's the summer holidays. It's such a juggle at the moment. Everything is like going from like work to mum. There's a lot of back and forth at the moment. But no, summer's nice. Summer's been really fun. I've had so much fun. I was actually moaning yesterday. I'm having like too much fun. I need to plan less. I've over-planned, I think.
Over activities. I'm literally the same. And today was my first day indoors and my little boy's like, what are we doing today? And I was like, nothing. And he was like, oh. And I was like, look, you've got all these toys, put them all out. And he was so disappointed. And I was like, do you know what? My mum's right. Because she always says, you do too much and then they expect it.
Yeah.
So I was like, she's actually right.
Yeah, she is.
It is too much, isn't it?
I know. And I'm going camping this weekend. And I'm not a camper.
Oh.
It's not my thing.
That would be so nice, though. I always think the thought of it is nicer than doing it, though.
It's just there's so much to plan for camping.
And packing. Yeah.
I don't like, my friend keeps saying, what food are we taking? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight. Like, how do I know what I'm having for dinner for the whole weekend when I can't? I don't know. Yeah.
It's so relatable. So tell us a little bit about you, a bit of background and how you got into your job.
Okay.
As a whole.
So my background is in family work. So I actually started working in children's homes. I wanted to be a social worker and I worked in children's homes for a couple of years and I loved that job. It was an amazing job, really, really challenging. It taught me so much about being a mum and like being calm. But it really made me think I don't want to work for social services. Like the relationship they have with the kids is so difficult and very often they're like another person that lets the children down. So I ended up moving and becoming a family worker. I think it was initially for a project called Think Family, which was like funded by the police, to help with to support intergenerational trauma. And the point of the program was the government was spending so much money on like a certain amount of families, and if we could break cycles and teach people to parent and to like find jobs and to look like, it's that sort of that like give a man a fish they can eat for a week, teach them how to fish. So that was amazing. I loved that job. So we had 5 families and I was in all the time and I had money to pay for them to go to therapy and, my families have been through so much and, they needed a lot of support. We did family therapy and then slowly it got watered down and there was less money and more work and the targets were just, it was a completely different job. And I realised like the overarching thing with all the families I worked with was they all struggled with mental health in some capacity. And then because the parents struggled with mental health, inevitably the children would struggle with their mental health. So when I decided I wanted to train as a therapist because I needed mental health training. And then I got pregnant like mid my training. And for me, the priority was I need to be the healthiest mum I can be because statistics around motherhood are so poor. Like in the first year, I think suicide is the biggest killer in women. And in the first year, people are most likely to get divorced. And if we look after ourselves and we feel happier, then it's obviously going to have an impact on our children. And I did lots of different things. So I planned before I did things like I had my placenta pills made into capsules. I don't know whether it works. I didn't get baby blues, so I'm hoping so. I planned, like, my mother-in-law was going to look after my baby so I could go to the gym. I went to baby groups. Like, I was always pushing my mums I worked with for connection. So I was at baby groups at 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky I've got a dog, so I had to go out for walks every day, whether it was raining, whatever, I was out. And I did all these things that meant I didn't hugely struggle in early motherhood. Also, the other thing I did was I was very firm around breastfeeding, and I was like, I will breastfeed until it starts to affect my mental health. That was a real big fear because I'd seen mums get really unwell trying to breastfeed and their babies are losing weight and all those things. And it really worked. And then I realised that other mums weren't doing that. Like, all we do normally I think all we're encouraged to do is plan for birth.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know.
Even down to like the NCTs, anything like that is so true. And even going back to what you said about breastfeeding, I actually was doing a health and health science course at college, and we had to find a topic, and mine was like to write a dissertation on, and mine was, is breast actually best? And the statistics on, I know that, you know, breastfed babies, amazing, great statistics, but for the actual mum, the mental health side of it, there's so many downfalls on it.
So many downfalls because of sleep deprivation.
Yeah. Even down to like you get annoyed at your partner because you're having to do everything. Yeah, you're having to get up with everything. And so, do you know what? I completely understand that. And I think that's what, when you said you were going to do it till it affects your mental health, that's the best way to be about it. We put so much pressure on ourselves. I remember my sister bursting into tears the day that she was like, I feel like I can't do it anymore. And I was like, but why are you putting that pressure on yourself? Your baby's still going to be fed. It's not like you're saying, I'm never feeding my baby again. You're not being a bad mum. You're doing what's right for both of you.
Because it's like, alternative options are not spoken about.
No.
Like, it's actually illegal to advertise breast milk. I think it's like in the same category as like cigarettes and alcohol. You can't advertise that. No, but not formula, I mean.
Oh, formula.
Yeah, you can't advertise formula. So if there are ever any formula adverts, they're only for follow-on milk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, actually. And even they say on there about breastfeeding on there, don't they?
I've said to so many people, like, I just combi fed because I went back to college quite quickly after I had my baby. And so it made sense. I was always going to combi feed because then my husband could do some of it. And then I'd still have part of me that I went out for 3 hours a week.
Definitely.
And even when I talk about going out for 3 hours a week when my baby is 2 weeks old, it's so shocking. My husband went back to work full time.
Yeah, no one cares, do
No
they?
one cares.
Oh,
No,
right, no. And they're like, oh, he gets 8 hours out of that, even longer than that sometimes.
No one thinks that's weird.
No.
But if you want to have 3 hours to yourself, it's like, wow, that's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I did. I knew that it was going to be good for my baby because I wasn't so lost in motherhood, and that's the thing. I think you don't realise that you go through matrescence and you lose your whole identity. There's nothing left of you. And if you can just hold on to something that like brings you joy and is your passion outside of your baby, you love your baby, but that's not enough to keep you happy.
No, you do need some of yourself back. And you see so many mums spiral and be like, I've completely lost myself. It's like my baby's like, my child's 6 and I haven't done anything for myself in that time. So I completely agree. So you were saying that you got pregnant halfway through, you had the baby. You've got 2, haven't you?
I've got 2. So I've got a 3-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. And I had my 3.5-year-old it was very different when I had my 3.5-year-old. So I had my 3.5-year-old. I found out I was pregnant the day we went into lockdown. Yeah. So that was pretty wild. And I think I was, obviously, lockdown, a lot less connection, don't have the help in the same way you did the first time. I think I got much more caught up in social media, and the one thing that really sticks with me is the algorithm just sent me all this stuff about like my daughter not being a baby anymore and not wanting her to feel left out, and I had this real fear that I was going to have a baby and she would feel like she wasn't loved. And so I did, and I couldn't have the same help, and I found having my son really, really hard because I didn't do the things that I did the first time. I obviously couldn't go and exercise. I couldn't, I could, and I really, really regret, have put her into nursery more. But because I felt guilty, I had her in nursery 2 days a week. And I remember when my son was about 2, one of the mums at nursery had a baby and she put her son in for a nursery an extra day a week. And I said, that must cost a lot. And she said, not as much as my sanity. I was like,
so true.
I wish someone had just said that, because that extra day, I would have just been able to sit at home with my baby, watch TV. She would have had so much fun at nursery.
Yeah.
But I'd got all caught up in this guilt that I should be with her more. And if I spend time with him, she is going to feel left out. I didn't ever give the narrative like permission in my mind that how lucky she is that she's got a sibling. Just didn't think about it.
No, I'm completely with you. I have my little boy in lockdown as well. He's going to be a year and a half next month. 3.5 years next month. So I completely am with you on that. I found it really hard and challenging to even meet like new mums because there was nothing you couldn't
go to baby group. We didn't go to any baby groups. We just went for like our walk.
Even down to midwife. So he's not my partner anymore. But my partner at the time, he had never come to any midwife.
Yeah, they didn't come to anything.
Nothing. And I was like, that's just so sad. And even down to my labour. Only came in when I was literally pushing. Yeah. And they miss out on so much. I think new mums on their first baby, if they've never had one before, that must be so horrible that you've had to go through that.
Like to not have them at the scan.
Yeah. Crazy.
So weird. Like you think of it, if people lost babies in lockdown, they were on their own.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it's wild. Or if like one of my friends had a baby and she had an emergency C-section and her husband only just got there in time and they just kept her in hospital and it's so ridiculous. Yeah. Like, why does it matter that they were in and then they weren't in?
And the thing is as well, that's your bubble, that's who you live with.
Yeah.
So if they've got COVID, you've got COVID, you're with these people. And even now, I think it's actually mad that I was that scared to leave my house. And like now, I'm like, I had COVID 2 weeks ago and literally I still am like testing and I was like, oh no, it's gone now, it's fine.
You're not worried about it.
But no one cares.
No one cares. And it was,
but like, yeah, you can still come in. I was like, no, I'm too scared still. But honestly, no one actually cares.
Like we looked, like if I look back and just thinking like, because I was like pregnant, you didn't know what was going on. You're like, am I high risk? I don't know. I think I'm okay. Or... Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, we were so crazy. I was saying to someone the other day, like, the fact that we were worried about, I was worried if I went out for more than an hour that we were going to get in trouble. Like, how would anyone know if I went on a 2-hour walk?
Literally. And I was at home, just me and my daughter at the time as well. So I was like, I'm not seeing anybody for the first little bit. And it was horrendous because I felt so detached from everybody. She was going to her dad's week on, week off. And then it was just me. And I was like, oh, God, I really hate this. I felt so secluded and by myself. And I think elderly people that live by themselves as well, it's just so sad.
And we just did Zoom calls and you don't talk on Zoom. Like, no. I know, if I think about it, like how little, like now I talk to my friends so much, but how little I would have actually talked to my friends because we didn't see them. And then you'd see them for like an hour and... No, actually, at the beginning we wouldn't see them at all, would we?
No.
Wouldn't for such a long time. We didn't see them
even
at all.
Like, did you remember, like, these two people went for a walk who knew each other? They didn't go anywhere near each other and they were all over the news and it's, like, crazy now when we think about it. I was so angry at them as well. I was like, I can't even see my mum.
I know, that's the thing. And then when it got a bit looser, going out, like... Oh, shall we meet up as a 3? But we're only meant to meet up as a 2. Like,
I know. Crazy. We've really gone on a tangent here about COVID.
But we were all nuts.
Yeah.
We all went...
I bet that had a detrimental effect on a lot of people's mental health.
I think that... Because I just think the real pandemic is the mental health after effects of it because it's just affected so many people's mental health now.
So at that point, were you completely trained and running your business when you had your son?
No, so when I had my son, I was I qualified then? I think I was... No, I was still working as a family worker there and I was just finishing my training. So I was right at the end and I had done... so I was right at the end. I think I was going through my own therapy and it was... I stopped having therapy then because, again, there was this really messy bit with therapy. It was like, are we going to work online or are we going to just... How does it work? Because before COVID, you only saw therapists face-to-face.
Yeah.
It's the best thing ever for me. Like now I can do online therapy because for mums it's so much easier to be able to do online therapy, to do it when the kids are in bed or like have someone to come over for an hour rather than have to travel. But there was this whole weird bit where no one knew what they were doing, and then I was still working as a family worker and I was a key worker, so I still had to go to work when I was pregnant, and then I would have gone on maternity leave. And I really didn't enjoy maternity leave the second time because it was so isolating. Like my son was born on the 30th of November and we were allowed out. And then that was the Christmas, when Boris...
You were allowed to go out on Christmas, but Boxing Day
Boxing Day we got locked in again. Yeah. For like 3 months, I think it was.
Yeah, it was because no one was allowed to... My little boy was born in March, so no one could come. at all then. And
Yeah,
it's
so for
crazy.
your last 3 months of
Yeah.
pregnancy, you were like really, like completely locked in again.
Yeah, I think my mum literally saw me maybe, maybe about 4 times during my pregnancy, and that's crazy because she was my birthing partner with my daughter, so it's just crazy how
Yeah,
much
like my
impact
mum was there for my birth with my daughter.
Yeah.
She was obviously not with my son.
No.
Like, even down to those things, like when my daughter was born, my mum came over every day. When my son was born, like, I was at home with the 2 kids. I think my husband had a week off work, and then he had to go back to work because it was nearly Christmas. And so then I had like 2 weeks at home with 2 kids, and then he was off, and then it was lockdown. It's just insane because you didn't know whether you were coming or going. And I had friends who had babies, but we barely saw each other, and we didn't even hold each other's babies.
No, that's the craziest bit. And I was so petrified about people actually touching him. Anyway, even down to the helpers that were coming to my house. I was like, I don't know, she's been around loads of people. I don't know if I want this.
When I had also, I had to ask her to come. She wanted to do a virtual 6-week check.
No, you can't do that.
I know. I was like, no, I need you to at least come and look at my baby. Like, even if you're not like going to give me this ridiculous, really basic questionnaire 6-week check, you need to at least look at my baby and like check his arms and his legs and his hands and
definitely.
But it was all online.
It's crazy. Even that, like as you say, the actual therapy side, I done therapy after, and again, it was so good to have it virtual. I found when I done therapy face to face, I was holding a lot back, and I don't know why, because I didn't want to cry in front of somebody.
I get that. It makes sense.
I didn't care over a virtual, so it was like felt like I was bottling up and not.
That's nice. So you found it. You find it easier to be vulnerable. I get that. I really get that. It is. I don't mind doing either. Like, I know some therapists prefer to still do face to face, but for me it makes absolutely no difference. It's just as long as you get on with your therapist and you feel comfortable to talk and open up, I don't think it matters whether you're in the room or not in the
definitely.
room.
I think it just is whatever works for you, really. So, obviously, you've worked with families. What made you go down the mother route for your therapy sessions?
Okay, so the reason I wanted to specialise with mums is because I felt I did a lot of work with the children, and when you're always working with social services, the main work is with the child, and I just felt like I was doing all this work with the children and they were going back to their home. And actually, if you can support the mother, then you can support the child. And there is, like, in our sessions, we will look at all the past patterns, everything that's keeping you stuck, everything that's keeping you feeling overwhelmed and anxious. And if the mums learn healthier tools, then the kids learn healthier tools. Like, there were so many things. Like, I would work with kids who wouldn't go to school. School refusing was a huge one. And then actually, when you got to the bottom of it, so much was around anxiety around leaving their mum. So actually, if you can work on a mum's anxiety, kids, it's very unlikely that a child's anxiety comes from nowhere. Very often, anxiety is a learned behaviour. It's the way we learn to keep ourselves safe. You know, if we think of every bad thing that happens, then we're going to be safe. Then bad things can't happen to us, and children learn that. But if I can help a mum to feel calmer and more regulated and happier, then I can help their child.
It makes so much sense, and like just even hearing that, it sounds like common knowledge, but you don't think of it when you're in that mental state. I suffer bad with anxiety, and there's been times where I've probably rubbed off on my kids and not meant to, but it is true if you like work on yourself.
You don't mean to.
No.
Never mean to.
No, it's just a knock-on effect though, isn't it? And I think, as you say, generational trauma before from parents just carries on unless you stop.
We don't. The thing is, like, with our parents, they wouldn't have talked about their mental health. I think it's really odd how, like, you'll talk to so many people, like parents, who've just been on antidepressants for years, but you wouldn't even know that they had mental health issues. No. And it's like, well, at some point you were given antidepressants. Why were you given antidepressants?
Yeah.
It's just something, people just know that their parents take antidepressants but don't even question why.
Yeah. And I just think back in the day as well, it was just like given to them without actually dealing with the main thing.
I mean, it is now still.
Is it? Well,
antidepressants are given out so easily.
It's like I remember I had anxiety and I've never had it before and I didn't know why. It just come out of nowhere. And I said, the only way I can describe it, this is to my doctor, I said, the only way I can describe it is if someone's just made me jump and I'm like, but I feel like that all day and I don't know why. I don't know what's triggered it. I don't know. And they were like, okay, we're going to put you on antidepressants. I was like, no, because I'm not depressed. I was like, I just have this horrible feeling.
I know.
And I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to go and pay for my own. It's so expensive. But I went and paid for my own therapy and I was like, I'll deal with it because I want to get to the root cause.
Yeah, because because it's cheap.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to just give people medication.
And the waiting list, if you wait on the NHS.
Oh my God, they're so long. And what's sad is generally, like my mum recently had, there's something, I think it's Time to Talk, the NHS will refer you to. And Time to Talk is a kind of therapy called CBT, which can be really effective. It's not the kind of therapy I do. But it's only 6 weeks.
You're not going to fix all of that in 6 weeks.
No, like my mum, I know where her anxiety stems from. Her anxiety stems from her relationship with her mother and like living, like not knowing where her mum was when she was a child. Like we can't be unpacking that in 6 weeks.
No, that's an ongoing thing. So what style is your therapy? Tell us more about that.
So I'm a person-centred counsellor, which means that I believe that like you are the expert, you have all the answers. You know why you're struggling, but 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. And we think that we're making our decisions with 5% of our conscious thoughts, but actually the majority is subconscious beliefs that we have learned throughout our lives that make us lovable. So say you struggle with perfectionism. At a time, you learn that was what made you lovable. Like if I get nothing wrong, if I'm always good, being the good girl is a real one, then my parents will love me. And if you can if we can get to the bottom of why you need to be perfect and why you can't get anything wrong, then we can help you to have tools to calm your nervous system, because you feel dysregulated if you aren't perfect. And then accept that, well, perfect doesn't exist as a big one.
So that's where the imperfect comes into it then.
Yeah.
But I love that because, as I said to you before, there's so much pressure on mums these days. And I do, like, social media is my job. Obviously, this is where I promote all of this, and my clients that I have for social media management, I deal with them. However, I think it is so damaging to mums because they look on social media and they, like me, I'm not going to put up the best parts of my day. I'm not putting up that I'm feeling like shit and my kids have me ripping out my hair today. Yeah. I'm only going to put the best bits up. So if you're having a crap day with your kids and you're scrolling and you're seeing that continuously, it's so easy to compare yourself.
Yeah, it's so easy. I saw a post the other day which really, it's something so simple, but it really made me think. Like I see, you know Millie McIntosh?
Yes.
So she has like a mum account and she's always talking about, I heard her talking the other day about how like we don't really use screens and we don't really like do this and we don't really do that. And then someone had said to her when she was on holiday, do you have any support while you're away? And she said, yeah, our nanny's with us. And I thought, wow, no wonder you can manage all these things because you have full-time help even when you travel.
Yeah, literally. And I'm guilty of like today, I have been I told you before we recorded, today's my first day of the summer holidays where I've sat indoors, and that's purely because yesterday I had to take the full day off to go to a funeral. So today, and my son's normally in nursery when I'm working, but today he was at home, so I've had to get my work done, and I'm not afraid to say that his iPad was his babysitter for most of the day.
It has to be sometimes because we don't have a nanny.
No.
Like
literally.
And it's so easy. Like people don't share their nanny.
No.
No one, like all these people that you're comparing yourself to on social media have got nannies.
And I do think they should be more transparent with that because they have got a big platform and they're showing what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, but they're not actually giving the whole picture to these people.
No. And that's like the reality. You just can't compare yourself to anyone because everyone has like a different family network, different friends. Like, I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and now I have such a good network. Like my kids, number one, are easier to look after, so people are more open to having them. I have really good friends. So I can, like, we can say, like, oh, could you look after them for the morning, or could you look after them for the afternoon? Like, their grandparents are much more willing to have them overnight because they don't wake up in the night.
Yeah.
You can't compare yourself to anyone.
No, definitely.
But it's so easy to go on and think, oh, well, they managed to cook dinner every day from scratch.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not doing that.
No.
Just to let everyone know.
no, I'm definitely not.
What advice do you give to mums that are comparing themselves and having the mum guilt that comes along with that? How do they deal with that?
Okay, so mum guilt, I would say, do you know, one of my favourite things to think about with mum guilt is, do dads have, there's no dad guilt.
No, there isn't.
There isn't a word for dad guilt. Like, and a lot of the time when I'm feeling guilty, if you've got a partner, talk to them. Like, because they can really help you to rationalise. I remember it was a while ago, I was hungover and the kids had been watching their iPads, and I said to them, I'm going to take your iPad off you in a minute because you've had enough screen time. And my husband went to me, why do you make life hard for yourself?
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And
They're happy, you're happy.
Yeah, I thought, what difference does it matter if they have a morning on their iPad, like, and I get to watch TV and chill? Like, can assure you that I have never ever had a client come to me and say, my mum let me watch TV for the morning and that's why I need therapy.
I saw this really funny TikTok the
Yeah.
other day of this lady laying on the couch and she's like pretending she's in therapy.
I saw this.
Yeah. My mum, she made me really nice breakfast and she needed 5 minutes to go and get ready.
Yeah.
It's so true. We think that we like get this horrible guilt come over us for doing our basic needs, like as you say, going to the gym, even doing the food shop if you want to do that by yourself.
Oh, I went to the Tesco's today with my kids and it was absolute hell. And I left. I needed tin tomatoes and I just said, no, we're going. I've had enough. I rang my husband and said, can you bring them? I actually will not do a full food shop with my kids.
No,
this was a pop-in.
Yeah.
That was it. I will not. It's too, that is, if you want to see me stressed, see me in Tesco's with 2 kids.
Yeah. What advice as well would you give to mums that don't necessarily have that support with a partner there, that still need that time?
But what also, talk. Always talk. Don't go. When you're feeling guilty, don't go on Google.
No.
That's what we do. We go on Google. And the reason we do that is because our brain likes familiar. So if we have, it sounds really odd, but if you are thinking, I'm a terrible mum for doing this, you will look for evidence to confirm that you are a terrible mum for doing something. And I was talking to a client the other day and she was saying, oh, I feel really guilty. And I speak to my husband and he says, like, don't worry about it. And I said, and then what do you do? And she says, then I go to my mum. And I said, is your mum really anxious? She said, yeah. I said, so does your mum agree with you? And she said, yeah. And that's what we do.
Yeah.
We keep fishing till someone confirms.
Gives us the answer that we
Gives
think.
the answer that we already think. And that is because our nervous system likes familiar, and our nervous system actually likes negative because it's trying to keep us safe. And so it's looking for everything bad. The main thing I would do, anyone struggling with anxiety, go and see Inside Out 2.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh my God, it just explains it in such an amazing way. But think of someone in your life who you can trust, who isn't anxious, who will give you a rational response. Go to them. And the other thing I would say was, think about what would you say to your best friend if they told you. If they said, oh, I gave my kid fish fingers twice this week, what would you say?
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Like,
I bet they loved it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what would I say to my best friend?
That's so, do you know what, that's so funny because you're saying that you look for your response. I get annoyed with my boyfriend. If I'm having like a rant and then he gives me a rational answer, I'm like, oh, don't worry, you don't understand. I just hang up the phone. I just want him to join in on my pity party.
Yeah, you
I don't
do.
know why, because really he's trying to calm me
because
down.
That is what we need.
Yeah.
That is what your brain is honestly looking for. And I say, like, mindset work is like going to the gym. We have to keep doing it all the time. Like, you can't write a gratitude list and just like you can't go to the gym once and have a 6-pack.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You have to do it consistently every day, every month, every year. Like, if you're going to get fat again, you're going to fall back into old patterns. Like, we are so naturally conditioned to focus on the negative and focus on the bad. And if we want to feel happier and want to feel healthier, we have to do things that are going to help us to feel happier and help us feel.
Yeah. I think when you know that, like me, next time I go to that point, I'm going to be like, no, actually, I know why I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Once you've got that understanding, it's just like...
knowledge is power.
Definitely. So tell us as well, so you've got the Imperfect Mum course. Tell us more about that, because I saw as well you're doing an event, aren't you, at Rockwater as well.
So I have a monthly group, because I created the Imperfect Mum group and I want it to grow, but at the moment it's once a month at Rockwater and I do a motherhood talk. And the reason I created that group was because when I had my daughter, I mean, when I had my son, I didn't go to baby groups because I was in lockdown. But when I had my daughter, I went to baby groups. And one of the things that they were great for getting me out and having routine, but there was no connection. I never met any mums. I never chatted to anyone. I was really fortunate. My best friend had a baby 10 weeks after me. So luckily I had her. But if I didn't have her, I don't honestly know who I would have spoken to, because you go to those groups and someone was telling me the other day she went to Baby Sensory and you're encouraged not to talk.
Really?
I know. You're like waving a scarf over a baby who's not even awake.
Doesn't even care,
They don't even care.
They're probably crying the whole way through it. The only reason you're actually
or they're asleep. Half the time they're asleep.
That's the whole point of these groups, surely. What it should be.
But my group it's just like a lovely space. I love Rockwater.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted it there, because I love Rockwater. I just love being there. And I do a talk each month on something to do with motherhood and being perfectly imperfect and creating raising a happy mother, really. And then I have an Imperfect Mum course, which is like a self-led course that you can do. And I'm also in September I'm launching an Imperfect Mum group program. So it's going to be I'm just finalising it at the moment, but I think what it's going to be is like an 8-week program for antenatal. So it's sort of like the NCT, but for after you have your baby.
Yeah.
To help mums to actually focus on what they need to start enjoying motherhood, because I think that we get so caught up that it can just be like a horrible long slog.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we don't think about is, I was going to say, I don't know what the word is, but you can have two different feelings at the same time. You can love your baby and also feel completely bored and lost in motherhood. You can feel overjoyed that you get time off with your baby, but also really
juxtaposition,
yeah. Like you can have, we all have loads of different feelings at the same time.
Yeah.
And I want to create a space where mums actually can be themselves, because I had an NCT group and I didn't connect with any of them. And all they talked about was feeding.
I was going to say stereotype. I never went to them purely because, as I say, when I was pregnant the first time, I was 18. They put me in a young mum one.
Which has been cut now.
I'm glad, because I was 18 and the rest of them were like 13 and 14, and I thought, I'm an adult. I know I'm young, but they're sitting there talking about
13.
do you know when you're like, I completely understand they need to go to one tailored to them, but equally the older ones that my sister went to, because she was an older mum, and it was all like pushing breastfeeding and things like that. So I just think, I didn't even if there was one.
No, so there wasn't really a space for you.
No,
at all.
Definitely, I didn't fit into any of the brackets.
No, and I just want it to be a place where you can actually go and be yourself. It's like a place where you're more than a mum, because I think that you can just feel like you're just a mum. Yeah. You're not just a mum, that's just like a part of who you are. Yeah. I think it's the most important part probably, but it's still only part. And I always think, I'm a mum of a daughter. I don't want my daughter to look at me and think like my life ended when I had her. I don't want her to think like I'm like some sort of martyr who had nothing because I had her. I want her to see me as a happy person. I want her to think like, oh, I can't wait to be a mum because it looks really fun. It looks really nice.
Yeah, that's so lovely.
I am the biggest over communicator, because when I grew up, my mum didn't communicate anything. She was like, she'd get angry and then she was fine. Yeah. But there was no repair. And I always say that the most important thing is the repair. Like, we're not going to be perfect all the time. We're going to shout sometimes. I just had a moment with my daughter. She's 6 at the moment. And I don't know what's going on with her. Like, you think, like, when they're 3 or 2, you don't know what's going on with them. But
it's girls, honestly.
It's girls.
Because obviously I've got a girl and a boy first. And I'm like, a girl first, and then a boy. And I'm like, honestly, he is a dream.
It's so different.
Like, even from like 6 months onwards, I'm like, how? Yeah. You have eyes in the back of your head with boys.
Yes,
they're on the go all the time.
Yeah, he's so dangerous, my son, but he's not emotional in the same way. And she just, I was talking to someone today and she was like, oh, maybe it's school holidays. Like, my daughter's being a nightmare because she's got no routine. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's this thing called adrenarche I've heard about, which is, there's they have like a hormonal surge between 6 and 8.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like pre-puberty. And that can affect their moods,
Yeah.
I've heard recently. Anyway, whatever it is, she goes one moment from I'm the worst mum in the whole world to the next moment I'm the best mum in the whole world, and she wants to sleep in my bed and snuggle with me. And she absolutely lost it a minute ago because her dad did. She had a boiled egg and he dropped it and it cracked. And she like threw it. And I was like, you do not throw food. And then... she did something else and he shouted at her and then she ran off crying. Anyway, she's crying in her room. My husband went and said sorry and then she didn't come down, and then I went and had a chat with her. And we just had this chat about, she'd written on a bit of paper, my mum and dad don't love me.
Oh, God. They're so dramatic,
They're so dramatic.
It's girls, honestly.
But my mum wouldn't have come to see me.
No, neither would mine.
She would have just left me.
Yeah.
And then that's where I really learned to hide my emotions and not talk about my feelings. I have like a really avoidant attachment style naturally. My mum says to me, you don't talk about your feelings. But I'm like, well, because you never taught me how to.
Yeah.
But with her, I went up, we had a chat. I said, of course I love you. I talked to her about how, like, when you waste food, there are people who don't have food. She was like, oh, like, homeless people don't have food. And I was like, she was like, well, they could have my egg. I was like, no, because it was on the floor. They actually can't. It's got to go in the bin. And then it was all fine.
That's so true. Actually, just having that conversation afterwards, once everyone's sort of calmed down, is so important. You can't just carry on and expect it to
because
be okay.
that's the thing. Like, because we all hold on to those difficult feelings, and kids particularly they think everything's about themselves. They're like little narcissists.
Yeah,
they're not thinking like, oh, maybe that was a bit out of order what I just did. Her response is, my mum and dad don't love me.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Crazy.
How their little minds work.
Yeah. And then when I left, she was like, can I sleep in your bed?
So have you got that when you go home then?
She's not sleeping in my bed now. I said, so, well, am I still the bed? And we had this chat. I was like, Goldie, I can't keep up. Like, a minute ago, you hated me. I was the worst mummy in the world. Now, I'm the best mummy in the world. She was like, yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
I'm glad I'm just not the only one going through it, because especially these last 3 years have been wild.
Well, you're in puberty. You've got puberty as well. Yeah.
But I feel like she hit that early, so I feel like...
And you had a baby.
Yeah, oh my God, it was horrendous, because I had an 11-year age
Oh my God,
gap.
what are the timing?
It was
a newborn and puberty.
Yeah, I had terrible twos and teenagers all at the same time. I was like, I've really not timed this well.
Oh my God, and then I'm trying to be calm.
Yeah, no. And sometimes you just can't. And, going back to what you said at the beginning, when you're pregnant with a new baby and your algorithm was showing you, they're not going to feel loved, they're not going to have this. She genuinely did feel like that. And there's nothing I could actually do. And it was because we'd had 11 years, just me and her.
Yeah.
I'd never had like a serious relationship around her. We'd literally just been us two.
Yeah,
and that was it. So then all of a sudden I've got a boyfriend, I've got a baby. And she was like, I just don't like this at all. Yeah. To the point, like, it wasn't the main factor of a relationship breakdown, but equally I needed to put her feelings into consideration with this, and she was making it unbearable for us to all be under the same roof because she wasn't happy.
Hard.
And I think, as you say, if I'm not happy, this is what I was going to go on to about how important is the mum's mental health for the children, because I ultimately wasn't happy.
No, because and then you're saying, I don't know, I felt anxious all the time. Of course you felt anxious all the time.
Yeah.
Like everything was
Literally,
like, you were literally being
much.
pulled here and here
Yeah.
and here and here, and you couldn't win.
No, I remember the baby was crying. She's like, Mum, can you help me with this question on my homework? And I was like, I don't know what to do.
Then that was the juggle.
Yeah.
Like when I had my son, my daughter ignored him. She just ignored him. It was like he wasn't even there. Like I don't think she even spoke to him for 6 months.
No.
Like, and
they hold grudges, don't they?
Yeah, she just completely ignored him. And people used to say to me, "Oh, it's sad that like she doesn't pay him any attention." And I've actually heard now people say to me, "No, it's actually amazing because if you've got babies that are smothering,
they try and pick him up.
It's
and
so
stuff.
stressful." Yeah, she didn't go near him. She was fine. And actually, I'm at the other side. My kids are best friends.
Yeah.
Like, they sleep in the same room. They're so close. They obviously fight. All kids fight. But they play so nicely together. And I just look back and I'm like, what was I worrying about? Like, it was just the messy middle. But we're all over the place because we don't know what's going on. They're all over the place. Everyone's all over the place. And it's like you've got to, like, hold your nerve. And if you just know, like, it's meant to be messy here.
Yeah.
And then there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Everything's going to be better. Like now, what's their relationship?
Oh, amazing. But you know what? You'd think with an 11-year age gap, she's 14 and he's 3, you would not think that they argue because what could they possibly argue about? They argue so much because she's such a teaser and then he'll like say something horrible to her and I'm like, oh, for God's sake, I can't win here. But then he'll be like, I'm going to go and sit with Ez and he'll go up and sit in her room with her and she plays with him and they're really, really close. And they're at an age now where like if I need to pop to the shops, I can leave her.
Oh, no. There's some real benefits to having a 14-year-old.
Definitely, yeah. And she's really mature for her age. She's nearly 15 as well. So
she can babysit. Can she babysit now?
Well, I don't really tend to leave her long. If I'm popping to Asda or something, then that's fine. But I wouldn't leave her for like long.
But I mean, it wouldn't be long.
No.
Soon she'll be able to babysit for you.
An in-house one. Yeah, and he even like down to say if I'm going away for the night, my mum looks after them. But it's actually her that does his bath and puts him to bed because she knows his routine. So he won't settle with my mum, but he will with her. So I'm like, how crazy is that? Like, just because he associates her with me, so he will with... Yeah, so it is really, really nice, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's like we fight... Like, that is exactly where we're focusing so much on the negative. We're not thinking, like, this will pass.
Yeah.
Everything passes.
That's the thing. I think as new mums, I think we need to know that every little thing is a phase, isn't it?
Everything is a phase.
Yeah, it's always going to come out. It's always going to get better, but then there'll be another thing that you're worried about.
There'll always be something. Like I'm saying, now I'm dealing with a 6-year-old's emotional needs.
Yeah.
Like you think, they've passed their terrible 2s. For my son, terrible 3s. He was easy 2-year-old. Really. Yeah. He was a dream 2-year-old. Like much more difficult as a 3-year-old.
See, I've only literally found it in the last week. I've been like, oh my
really?
God, he's really testing me. But I think she's been up at her dad's for a week and she doesn't normally go up there. So I think where it's just been us two, maybe that imbalance has changed it as well, the dynamic.
And he might miss her.
Yeah. Well, he did because we FaceTimed her earlier and he was like, I think you need to come home now. And she was like, I'm just seeing my other little sister. And he like gets jealous that she's got another sister on that side. Yeah. It's like, honestly, these blended families, it's crazy. But works for us now. So, yeah, we've got out of the other side.
The jealousy that's the thing. It's like my little boy is starting to now, we're navigating at the moment. Like we'll go and see someone and they want to play with Goldie because she's older.
Yeah.
And they don't want to play with him as much.
Oh, that must be horrible as well, though.
And he didn't used to care because he was more babyish, but now he's getting older. He's like, no, they're my... But then we had like a play date today and it was with a 5-year-old girl and a 3.5-year-old boy. He wanted to be friends with a 5-year-old girl.
They always want to be friends with the older ones.
Yeah, they always do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cute. So, yeah, going back to your course for after they have the baby... the postnatal course, I think that is so important as well, purely because you get given all these tools about how to have a baby and what to do then. But as you said, those things that help you afterwards are not being taught.
No, they're not.
You're not given the skills to know that.
I just think like there's so many practical things that we could do, but we feel so much shame.
Yeah.
Around like I was saying about going to college for 3 hours a week.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal.
No.
And if we spoke to men about They'd be like, what?
Yeah.
And I actually have friends who've got, like, say, 3 children, who would go away. One of my friends has got 3 children. She's just had a baby. And she's just gone to Mykonos for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. And she's got like a 4-month-old.
Yeah.
She's done it. Like, it's not, but you never see that.
No, you
That's
don't.
the other
But
side,
I also do think there's that, it's the judgment of other people what stops people from doing it.
Yeah, because we think we shouldn't.
Yeah. And why are we conditioned to feel like that? Is it social media? What is it?
I mean, I think a lot of it's social media, because the first time round, I wasn't at all involved in the motherhood space.
Yeah.
And I went to my best friend's wedding in France when my daughter was 5 months old. And it was hard leaving her, but actually it was the best thing in the world. Like, I needed that break so much. Like, me and my husband just, like, actually had, like, a nice time together.
Yeah, and that's important as well.
So important.
Because tell us as well about the impact on your relationships after.
The thing with I mean, for me, I would say the relationship was probably the biggest shock. And when you talk about it, I remember the first time I spoke about it to a friend saying, we don't have any time together. And I remember she looked at me for like 20 seconds, and I was still quite private then. So it was a big deal sharing it. And she looked at me for like 20 seconds and she was like, oh my God, I thought it was just me. Like,
yes, it's actually having those open conversations.
Yeah.
Because it is true. I think you both become the bottom of each other's list.
Yeah. And before you were the top.
Yeah.
Like, there was
It's a shock, isn't it?
There was no one in the world who was more important to me than my husband. I mean, you obviously had an older child.
Yeah.
There was no one in the world who was more important to my husband. And then you have kids, and then the baby is everything. You're too tired to even talk to each other at the end of the day. You don't want to be touched, because no one wants to be touched really after they have a baby, and you've been touched all day by a baby. You don't have fun together anymore.
No, and I think that's so important. Like, one bit of advice that I would give anyone is it's so important to make that time, even if it's for an hour, a month, like just you two, no phones.
Yeah.
And just actually remember why you fell in love with each other, because it's so easy. You see so many breakups happening in the first year of after having a baby, because you become complacent with each other, I think.
And I think, like, before, it's really easy to, like, go for dinner with each other.
Yeah.
Whereas now, it's like, I want to try and see my friends. I need to see my family. I need to see my mum friends. And then I'll have weddings to go to, and birthdays and all these things. And then you don't get a babysitter to go on a date night.
Yeah. No.
And actually, that needs to be the top.
Priority, and everything else come up.
Yeah, because my mum and dad did not have a good relationship, and I remember, and I always think about that. Like, I want to give my kids, I want them to see what, like, a really good relationship is. I don't want them to grow up with loads of arguing like I did. Like, they argued. My parents argued all the time, and I hated it, and I never want my kids to grow up around that. And I don't think I really believed that there was a happy relationship. So
I'm like in a new relationship now. I'm like 8 months, 9 months in. And my mum and dad were very much like that. And going to therapy, I know I've got really anxious attachment. I have abandonment issues. I have all of these things. So I think with my ex-partner who I had my little boy with, it was a very volatile relationship, and it didn't get like that until I was pregnant. So not physically or anything, but we just didn't get on. Yeah. So, and I think for ages I put this pressure on myself, like, oh, I'm a mum, I've already got one baby with somebody else, I'm going to have 2 by 2, and then I get in my head and I'm thinking about all this judgment. But ultimately, when I sat down and I thought, do you know what? I'm growing up showing my daughter this is how you should be treated, and I'm showing my son this is how you should treat a woman, and I'm not doing that. And if people want to judge me for having 2 children and not being with their dads, then
it's so irrelevant.
Yeah, it is.
And like on the list of reasons to stay together, like it's like
it felt really important at the time, though, until I actually started therapy.
Because we worry so much about what other people think of us.
Yeah, and do you know what? People actually don't care.
They don't care. They're so busy.
Yeah, they don't give a shit what you're doing.
And if they care for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, literally.
And then
what do they say? Today's news is tomorrow's chip paper. Yeah, literally.
No one actually cares. And the other massive thing is we learn so much about our partners when we have kids.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
don't know them. Like,
No.
I was with my husband for 7 years. Was it? No, 6 or 7 years before I had a baby. I have learned so much about him since I've had my kids. Both of us had very, very different backgrounds, and he is very defensive and he's not very good at communicating. And we've been to therapy, actually, after I had my son, we went to therapy because we were just not getting on. And like, there was a point where we could have split up, definitely. Yeah. But I learned so much about why he's so defensive and why he can't communicate. And he's so much better at communicating now. Like, he's so much better at saying, I'm really overwhelmed right now. Can you just do this thing?
Yeah.
Or I can see when he's getting triggered, because he just grew up in a home where there was loads of shouting, loads of conflict, and he always had to defend himself. And those are the things that...
It's learnt behaviour, isn't it?
But you don't see them when there's no stress.
No.
There wasn't any stress before we had kids. We were just at home, like, it didn't matter who made dinner, it didn't matter who did the washing, it didn't matter. The other thing I heard the other day, which I hadn't thought about before and is so important, we're the first generation who are trying to be equal in parenting.
That's so true. Women are now are trying to do it all. We're trying to run a house, have a business, be a good mum, be a good wife, all of those things.
And we also want our partners to be doing everything
equally,
too.
Yeah.
Whereas it's always been, I don't know, pink jobs and blue jobs. And we're trying to figure out what equality is. Yeah. And that's so messy. Like, hopefully by the time our kids get married, equality will be much better. But the problem is that we're still the house managers most of the time. So if you've got a partner, they might do the washing, or they might take the kids to school, but you've probably told them when they're going to do it.
It's the silent load, isn't it? It's like the group chat from the kids' school, all of the letters, emails, everything to keep up with, like the admin is just, oh my God.
It's so my husband's in the school group chat.
Yeah, see, they should be though.
I put him in. I put him in.
Yeah.
He just got home one day and he was like, I keep getting all these messages. I was like, yes, I decided that was going to be your job.
Yeah, good.
He's not great at it though. This is the problem. Like,
do you miss out on like...
I miss out on the things. Like, he did the, what was it? The present you have to give to the teachers at the end of the year. And he did it. And then he showed me, there's like someone collecting.
Yeah.
And then he told me they'd ordered the presents. I said, it's for 4 teachers. He went, 4? He said, I only gave him a tenner. I said, you gave £2.50 a teacher.
Oh.
He was like, I didn't check how many teachers it was for.
Well,
yeah.
Little wins
it's
like
little,
that.
But it's little things like that. Like, he went and got I asked him to go and get a birthday present the other day, and I said something afterwards about the little girl being 4, and he went, I got a card that said 3.
But then you've got to sit there and think, at least he went and got the card.
It's done. It's done.
And you have to pick your battles with it as well.
You have to, and like, he has to learn.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like, I know how old every child is. I know,
they don't, unless they get it wrong the first time, they're not going to. How do we know it all? Do you know what I mean?
But we are, exactly. My first therapist we had a supervisor when I was a family worker, and she said, when you're in a relationship, you have to, with kids, you have to let them do things badly, and you have to praise them for doing things badly. Yeah. It's really hard. But, the only way you learn how to cook is, like, say your mum teaches you how to cook, or you're teaching your daughter how to cook. She's going to do it really shit, but you have to keep letting her do it. Or like,
because otherwise she's not going to get
Otherwise she's not going to learn. Or like, if you want them to clean, they're going to do it really badly
and
at
I
first.
do think men do stuff purposely bad so that you don't ask them again. So now my thing is, don't just keep doing it.
They just don't.
Yeah.
I think like, my husband, I used to think they do it badly. It's not that they do it badly, it's because they don't care.
Yeah.
So if you've got to think, if they didn't live with you, how would they do it?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's not. Because I used to get really pissed off and think, he just thinks I'm a servant, so that's why he does things badly. No, the reality is they just don't care. My husband, he makes the bed, because he normally gets up after me. And I come up sometimes and I'm like, you think that, like, you've literally thrown the cover over. Like you've lifted up one pillow, like
Yeah.
But
Do you remake it?
yeah, most of the time. But if he lived on his own, he wouldn't even make it at all.
No, it would just be left.
It would just
he doesn't care about it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're things that he's like, no one sees it.
It is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think big things in our head are just so minor to them that it's just parallel conversations that you're having. It just goes over their head, definitely.
But then the other day I was home and his friend came round who's a roofer, and I'd been saying, like, talking to my group I've got at the moment about how men and women have different worries. And his friend came round as a roofer, and I said, oh, hi Ben, what are you doing here? And he was like, I'm just coming to sort out the moss on the roof. I was like, what moss? He was like, oh, it's been driving Malcolm mad. You've got moss on your roof.
So that's been eating him up.
That's been eating him up. Yeah. While I'm trying to plan holiday clubs, our holiday, I'm going camping, I'm trying to sort out, just everything. Everything. The moss on our roof has been driving him mad. He was like, well, I don't know how it doesn't bother you. I've never looked at my roof.
No.
I'm too busy, probably talking to my kids.
Yeah, I'm literally looking down at the children.
I'm worrying about screen time and stuff while you're worrying about moss on our roof.
Oh, that's so funny. Right, so just ending it with, obviously I know you do your group sessions. Do you offer one-to-one therapy for people that want to get in touch with you?
I do one-to-one therapy. I do it either virtually. Most of my work is virtually now, and then I work at something called The Space in Hove.
Amazing. Yeah. And do you want to let everyone know where they can find you as well?
Yeah, so my Instagram is _therapist, and my website is Natasha Nyeke. So my podcast is The Imperfect Mum. My talks are The Imperfect Mum Motherhood Talks.
Perfect. And she's got so many tools and resources on there and really good reels, so make sure that you check her out, guys. If you've liked this episode, make sure that you leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on, and follow us on Instagram, on YouTube and TikTok at Mummahood The Podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was incredible.
It was fun.
Thank you. Perfect. Love you. Bye.
Bye.